This is The Way You Lead, a show for the new era of leaders who are ready to rise. I'm Joshua Church, and every week we explore how to lead from the inside out with strength, heart, and authenticity. Through stories, strategies, and conversations with embodied leaders, you'll gain what you need to lead yourself and others in today's changing world. The way you lead matters, and now is the time to step up. All right, well, welcome everybody, and let's give a round of applause to this amazing evening over here. Yeah, very well done. Shout out to Nicola and the team, and a big shout out and a big round of applause for Mark for this amazing milestone, getting the book launched. Here we go. Yeah. I'm sure many of you know that he's been working on this quite hard for a long time in the background, and so it's amazing to see it come to life, and excited to be here to celebrate with everyone. So my name is Joshua Church. It's been a pleasure to meet some new faces today, see some familiar faces as well. I am a founder myself, and I am the host of a podcast called The Way You Lead. And it's a top-ranked leadership podcast where I talk with people who lead their lives in a certain way, lead with strength, with heart, with authenticity, with integrity. And I can't think of a better leader who embodies those qualities than Mark. So when he asked me to come have a conversation here for his book launch event, I didn't have to ask twice. And I'm an entrepreneur myself. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad was an entrepreneur. My mom was an entrepreneur who was born in Morocco, lived the American dream. My sister dropped out of Stanford to start her company. So in a lot of family household dynamics, like if you tell your family, okay, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur and not be a doctor or a lawyer, they'd be like, you'd be blacklisted, right? You'd be the black sheep. It would be the opposite. If I would have went home and said, hey, Dad, I'm going to go to law school, he would have been like, what? Are you okay? So I grew up with that. We grew up watching Shark Tank every week. Just the other year, I was actually fortunate enough to go pitch on Shark Tank. We didn't get a deal. The company ended up going under. That's a hard-won lesson, which we've talked a lot about, and Mark knows a thing or two about. And I think it's just I learned so much of that experience myself, how important these principles are here in this book, and reading through the book, and what it means to really be free, and what that freedom-first mentality looks like. And so Mark, I'm excited to dive into the conversation. We're just going to get right down into it here. We're going to have a little bit of a chat. I'm going to ask Mark some questions. We're going to open it up to some Q&A, if you guys are good with that, and then Mark's going to read an excerpt, right? Cool. Great. So Mark, I just want to start by asking you. I mean, look, you've been a legend in the CPG industry with ZICO and now with GroundForce Capital. Why now? Like, why this book? Why now for you?
Yeah, why now? The now is interesting too, because a couple of people have asked me how long I've been working on this, and I really don't know. I think it's a little bit of denial, which I'll talk about later, but it's been at least 2, maybe 3 years. And when I think about kind of where this came from for me, there's a phrase, something like, you teach what you need to learn. And I think that's true for many writers as well. So I think I wrote what I needed to learn. And I think I learned by writing. And so this came for me at a time in my life where I was just beginning to make sense for a pretty traumatic time, and a lot of people in here know some of these stories, but after ZICO, I was, I had my 15 minutes of fame, a little bit of a legend, and I think I can own, to a certain extent, I thought my shit didn't stink, and I became a pretty active angel investor, a little bit ridiculously so in terms of lack of discipline and focus. And for a while, it looked great. Right? I had some people telling me, "Oh, you've got the Midas touch," and so I had a lot of people follow me into investments, some of whom are in this room. And then, I had an amazing time after selling ZICO. Traveled the world, partied a lot, built a beautiful house on the beach that a number of you went to, and but little by little, things started to kind of fall apart, and my investment track record started to not look so great. My health was constantly challenged. It'd be like every 6 months, my back is out, and I'm trying to take care of myself so my back doesn't go out. Many people know in here what more than I thought would be a lifelong marriage started to fall apart. And I was drinking a lot and did a lot with people in this room, right? And And at some point, it just was not going the way I thought it should go. And I remember thinking, like, is this success? You know, and yet I'm kind of a model of it, and I'm not feeling like this is the life I really want. And so I started to just break that all down. Like, what happened? What was I believing? What did I think, and was that right or wrong? And so I spent about 7 years kind of going deep into myself. And through that process, I think I remembered I do learn by writing. And so this was, for me, predominantly, just to make sense of my life and decisions and where I was and where I was going. And so it was first and foremost for that. And then along the way, as I started to share more and more stories, in fact, there's someone in this room, I'm not going to point them out, but I remember sharing with them, yeah, you know, I can remember early in ZICO's journey, rationally concluding, if I feel everything that's going on here, I'm dead. I might not get out of bed. So you know what? I don't really need my feelings. I don't need them. They're below me. They're beneath me. So I literally remember meditating and thinking, just float above them. Like, it was almost as if I was cutting off my feelings. And it worked. I showed up. I was a good father. I was a good husband. I was probably still one of the more, conscious, aware leaders in a way, but I wasn't in my body. And I also can look back and realize that I remember reading Emotional Intelligence, the book, and I thought, oh, that's great, because I want to understand Catherine. I want to understand Patrick. They have emotions, right? It's not tough for me. Yeah, it's not for me. And so all of a sudden I started just questioning everything I'd read, everything I'd bought about. And as I was sharing that, and there's someone in this room, I shared that story, and they said, oh my God, me too. And I thought I was alone. And I started sharing more and more, and I'd hear this again and again from entrepreneurs. And then by this time, Dan and I are diving into, GroundForce, and he and I are starting to, as any partners do, fantastic relationship, a lot going on, and we're having some bumps and grinds and figuring some things out. And we start learning to communicate in a different way. And I start thinking, you know what, this might be useful for others. It might be. And so, from that point, I decided, all right, I'm gonna go for this, and it'll be what it'll be. Right? It's gonna be useful or not. If it helps one person, amazing. If it helps anyone just love themselves a little bit more and have a little bit more compassion for themselves, then job done. That was it.
Amazing. Very, very powerful. One thing that strikes me just as you share that, and I think probably everyone in this room here, is you're not hiding anything. Like, that's a vulnerable share. I mean, few of us can have the presence to admit that to ourselves, let alone stand in front of a microphone in a room full of people that you love, to be able to share the real stuff of what was going on. So like, and the book is full of these stories. So why get so vulnerable? What was that challenging to be able to say, cool, I'm going to open up the kimono really, and I'm going to be vulnerable here, and why take that risk?
Yeah. I would say the book is actually redacted quite a bit from what it could have been and started to be, right? So I don't know. Maybe I have a little bit of an extreme bias towards vulnerability, which can have its risks too, believe me. So I'm not advocating. Everybody's got to find their balance. But for me, what I realized is, again, it helped me kind of understand, and I also began to realize I think I do have a strong empathetic capability. So when I'm putting myself in the shoes of a reader, and there are a number of you in this room were my, avatar or my, focus for this, literally you as people, I thought, okay, what might they need? What might help them? And I realized it's stories, and they're real, right? They're real, because the other thing I came to realize is, talking to thousands of entrepreneurs in the last decade, investing, and I've lost track, probably, what are we, 40 or more across Power Plant and GroundForce, 40 or so personally, and coaching a ton and advising a ton. It's tough, and it's lonely. And so I feel like if I can't share, who's going to? What, would I have to wait until GroundForce has 10 billion under management? You know what I mean? Till I buy ZICO 4 times and scale it back? So I just decided that, along the way I learned, I didn't know this growing up, like who the hell really understood basic emotions growing up, right? Humans bond through vulnerability. Who knew? When I learned that, it's like, okay, well, now I understand a little bit more. So it was both personal for me and it was very intentional of a way to try to meet people where they are, speak to the entrepreneur and say, man, I get it. I've been there. In fact, let me show you what really is going on and what's really happened.
Yeah, incredible. Let's talk about the book for a moment here and just the title of the book, An Entrepreneur's Guide to Freedom. You mentioned in the book, and you share a lot when you work with founders, that most entrepreneurs aren't really free. Even if they're successful, perhaps especially if they're successful, they're not really free. What do you mean by that? Like, let's break down that concept a little bit more. What do you mean by most entrepreneurs aren't really free?
Yeah, so maybe I'll take you through what I think freedom is, what it means to me.
Great.
And maybe I'll even start with what it's not. And so now I'll tell you a little bit about kind of how I came to that name. So I think when I think about when I have not been my definition of free, and I think the definition will come out of that, it's when periods of my life, and there were a lot of them for a long time, when I was waking up, alarms going, frantic, already like feel like I'm behind, right? Shut off the alarm, maybe get up, maybe not. Realizing I'm still hungover a little bit, just so I get, run, just go for a run, like get out and run, and then come back and try to get through my day and caffeinate, and what's on my schedule and show up at a meeting, and it's, God, meanwhile, I'm like, do I need to be in this meeting? Why am I here? What happened beforehand? Oh, God, I got something later in the day. I'm stressed out. I'm looking at my phone in the midst of a meeting, and then I'm, and get out of that meeting into the next one, and it's call, meeting, call, meeting, call, right? Little grab lunch and shove it in, and right? And it's a typical entrepreneur's day, right? I mean, who hasn't been there? And life and business days, life, forget just business, parents, kids, right? And then, for me personally, it would be like, oh God, stretch during the day because my back's killing me, but gotta work out and heavier, and then bam, my back's out and I'm on the floor and I gotta have some buddies pick me up and carry me somewhere, and then, God damn it, can somebody get me a drink? I'm ready for a drink, and it's not one. It's like, okay, it's scotch, and if I'm on scotch, it's scotch. If not, it's tequila, and then it's, hey, open some wine, and then you're going, and then the fun starts happening. You have great people, and there's good business, right? And then, God, I'm in bed whenever it is, and rinse and repeat, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat. And when I look back at that time, I realize I'm not there. I am not there. There's a part of me that's not, my body's there. Sometimes my mind is there, but are those two even connected, And where is my spirit? Why am I doing this? I am going through the motions, I didn't know any better, but I can look back now and say, that's not freedom for me. And so what freedom looks like for me now, and I'll kind of explain why these sort of scenarios are important to me, is, man, I wake up in the morning, and I'll own, I still often have that first thought, like, okay, what do I have to do? What's going on? Oh, God, am I late? My mind starts racing immediately. I'm sure most of ours do, right? But I've learned to just take a breath and laugh. Oh, there I go. That's what I do. Yeah, that's what I do. Okay, take a breath. Calm down, and usually I spend a moment or two in a lucid dream state, and it's heaven. Get up, and the first thing I do is drink a ton of water, a ZICO if it's around. I get on the floor and start stretching. Because I've learned, if I do that every day, I have probably a 95% probability that my back will not go out. If I don't do that for 3 days in a row, I have an 85% probability it will within 2 weeks. So I do it every day. And then I have and I'm not hungover. And I have learned to enjoy this amazing thing called sobriety, which I didn't really understand why anybody would choose that before, right? And even in that state alone, I can make a choice, right? My routine is such that I'm sure I get some people in the firm may have given me some slack every once in a while at this, but for periods of time, not in the last couple of weeks, I'll own, I don't have a meeting before 9. I work out, I meditate, I go through my journal, I journal, I do my long-term planning. I look at I call it my freedom binder. What are my objectives? What are my goals? What are my OKRs for the year? What am I focused on this week? Then I have my to-do list, and I look at my calendar, and then I connect with Nicola. Okay, what's going on? Where are we? And we beat up my schedule. Do I have to be in that meeting? She beats me up. Do you have to be in that meeting? Is that an energy up? Is it an energy down? Beat it up. And create time and space in my day. And when I am in a meeting, something amazing happens. I'm there. I'm actually present. Full body, full mind, full spirit, right there. And it's amazing what a difference it makes. Amazing. And I realized, this is how people talk about, forget the 10x we typically hear about, 10x your effectiveness in life by slowing down, by being present, by being in choice. To me, freedom is choice to say, do I want to be in this meeting or not? It's not the big, do I get a new house? Am I free to start a war or start a business? It's, can I be in choice to, you know what? That I'm not sure I want to be in that meeting right now. And I'm going to test and learn and see what happens if I'm not in it, right? And then I go through my day, and what's amazing is at the end of the day, in that state, I can have 8, 10, 12-hour days. I can have tons of meetings, and I'm not tired. I'm not nearly as tired. And when I'm not as tired, I don't need the drink. And then so the cycle just gets better. It just gets better. So freedom for me is really, I could call it awareness. I could call it choice. I could have called this book An Entrepreneur's Guide to Consciousness. And I think I would have sold like 4 copies. Okay? So it's the same thing for me. It's the same thing. And so I hope others you'll take away what you take away from it. But for me, it is about finding the ability to live my life the way I choose, and obviously with respect and love for those around me, but also in a place where others are making the same choices.
That's incredible. And I love the way that you break it down as, going through your freedom binder, and I've seen it all, the different exercises, how you look at it. It's what I feel you've been able to do in this book is really, and in your philosophy, is you take these tools, you take these concepts that could be a little bit fluffy or out there, and you make it really tactical, practical, and you make it very practical for someone who's in everyday life and everyday business, and how we can make that part of our lifestyle. So that's one thing I love.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. One last question here that I'll ask you, and then we can open it up to some Q&A here, is around this concept of emotions. We're talking a little bit about emotional intelligence and emotional awareness. Like, one of the things that I want to ask you just out of curiosity is like, I feel like you own that to a really strong degree of showing up and being emotionally aware and being honest and in integrity with the emotions that you're feeling. But like, is there a limit? Like, do you take that into the boardroom, for example? Like, are you crying in the boardroom as you're having a conversation? You feel it's like, where's the difference between that of like being there's no judgment, we're a judgment-free zone here, but I'm curious, right? Like, between like, how do you reconcile those things as you're in everyday action mode?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple people in this room, one in particular that I'm sure came out of a board meeting and that for the first time in his life and said, so Mark cried in the board meeting. He cried. And this is ZICO board meeting. And this has players that are all men around the table. And there are it's alpha on top of alpha on top of alpha. Like, I am not the alpha in the room, for sure. But, this was very intentional. And it was a combination of intentional and absolutely organic, where We were in a very intense situation, and the business was not performing the way any of us expected. It was running out of money, and we had some questions about leadership in that company. And I think the typical response that I'd had in 1,000 board meetings before that is to, first of all, speak before listening, right? Often not even create space for myself to acknowledge what I'm feeling, let alone speak, and that's a choice as well. Just because I feel it doesn't mean I have to speak it. But in this situation, I was struck by an overwhelming sense that I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And so that's what I shared. That's it. And I had a tear in the eye, maybe two, Adam, right? And you can check in with Adam. I'm not attached to being right about this at all. It changed the dynamic of the conversation, which changed the dynamic of the company, which changed the trajectory of the company. And someone from the management team spoke up like to fill in the void, like, I know what to do, I know what to do. And it just became so clear what we needed was space. And so we all took a step back. And I think I'll go out on a limb and say my willingness to take that risk and show that created space for everybody around the table, to say, oh shit, do I know? Am I certain? Am I sure? And we didn't figure it out that day, but we stopped digging the fucking hole, right? We stopped. We sat back and we said, okay, what do we need to learn? And we went through a process that led to, frankly, a management team. But imagine this management team. CEO ultimately steps in the role as head of sales, right? Like what? How rare is that, right? And new CEO comes in and accepts it, right? So it led to something, and ZICO is on fire. And I'm taking credit.
Yeah.
That's what turned it.
I love it. I love it. Wow. Thank you for sharing that and for showing all of us that there's an inherent risk of leadership. And if you're willing to accept that risk, regardless of where that goes or not, but being in integrity and authentic with yourself, that can lead to literal business turnarounds, which is fascinating to hear. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
I'd love to open it up here if we have a question or two, if anybody has a burning question for Mark around his book, around this philosophy, this idea, and we welcome all critical questions as well. We like any questions anyone has to share. Yes. Stu.
My oldest friend in the room and perhaps world. Welcome.
I might be the oldest person in the room.
Not even close.
You spoke about business. Can you talk a little bit about your life outside of business? What has this done to change the trajectory of your life? Because business is all well and good. I know there are a lot of successful people in here. But on a day-to-day basis, what has this done for you personally?
Wow. Thanks, Stu. Oh, boy. I have never felt more, I'll use the word happy, but that's doesn't even fully encompass it. More, I think, present and fulfilled maybe in my life. And it is because I'm finally more present to life. And so I feel, and again, I can look back with love and compassion that I was, it's a weird word, but I'll say it, like asleep. I was sleepwalking through life, I was. And now I feel like, not all the time, but I spend more time in the present. And that is, it's like revolutionary. And as an example, or like one part of that is, I still have feelings of what you might call them, difficult feelings, anger, sadness. But I actually do this incredible thing, which I didn't do from probably like I don't know, 12 until like 52 feel. They're just feelings. I experience sadness. I do. I experience anger. And you know what? It's not that bad. It's actually kind of interesting. It's a whole different experience in my body. Oh, that's the other thing. I'm actually in my body. Like, I've had one. It's attached to my head, but it doesn't I didn't really have a connection. And so that changes everything. And the weird thing is, I am working in the last number of weeks. I've worked more than I have in years, but I love it because I'm in choice. I'm showing up in choice. And so my health has never been better. My miles are running. I'm running again. I didn't run for a decade because of my back problem. Now my time is a little embarrassing, but I'm running. I barely drink ever. Like I have, had a glass of wine the other night, and Caroline's like, "You're having a glass of wine? Like, what's going on?" So and I feel I just feel so much more calm, relaxed, and alive. And I just feel so, oh God, am I gonna fucking cry now again, Adam? Jesus.
Feel it.
I just feel so grateful. And Stu has seen, man, we've known each other forever, since before I was born. Stu has been in my family's connection, and you've seen it all, my friend. And you've seen a lot of ups and downs, a lot of houses, and in and outs of relationships, and it just helps me reflect on, where I've been. So thank you for the question. Long answer. Sorry about that.
Oh, good. Amazing. Thank you. Do we have any other buddy? One more question? Yes, Max.
I love it, Mark. I was like, you were talking through that journey of entrepreneurship, and I was like, man, do I have to cancel some meetings tomorrow?
Yeah.
What's one of the, you talked about rearranging your morning and starting to think of your OKRs and being more purposeful. What's one thing that an entrepreneur can take away from this that's practical, like a framework?
Yeah. Talking about meetings, it's called an energy audit. And you look at you can pick one day, or you can do 1 week, and look at, you could do it in the past, but it's helpful to just do it in real time. Look at every meeting you have and ask yourself, there's really only 3 answers: energy up, energy down, or neutral. That's it. And it's even better if it's only energy up, energy down. And there no thought, intuition, and just arrow, up, down, up, down, up, down. Print it out, whatever you need to do. Cancel one, take the risk and cancel one energy down meeting. And don't explain it to yourself. Don't justify it to yourself. Just cancel it. If you care to go deeper, you can say, okay, what's the story I'm telling myself? I'm needed there. I must be there. And you could ask yourself, are you sure? But if nothing more, cancel it and test and learn and see. How do you feel afterwards? More energy, less energy. If you feel more energy, well, that's pretty cool. Try it again, right? Maybe somebody reacts after. My God, why weren't you there, Max? I mean, how could you not be there? Maybe you learn it's the best thing you're not there. Somebody else steps up. What amazes me is entrepreneurs are so amazing. Look at the data, do the analysis, crack open this 75 tab spreadsheet and do all of it. But they won't do it themselves, right? Test and learn, test and learn, test and learn. Cancel something and see what happens. And it might stir up in you feelings of insecurity, uncertainty, whatever. Great. You get to learn, right? That's one.
Great tool. Thank you. Awesome. Oh, yeah, one last one.
Oh, hi, Jen.
So I have a question. I love the book. I thought it was amazing. I actually didn't know you could write that well.
Oh, thank you.
I want to say it was so beautifully written. It was so relatable. The stories that you told through everything just really took me aback.
Oh, thank you.
I've been an entrepreneur my whole life.
You have.
We've gotten to play together in ways. But one question that I have is, when you're talking about Entrepreneur's Guide to Freedom, I love the. Sorry.
Someone wants your time. This is the entrepreneur's life.
Always. One question. When you're an entrepreneur, you're grinding a lot.
Yeah.
That's kind of the essence of the book. You're always grinding.
Yeah.
How does your advice change for those of us who have to grind because they have to versus they want to?
Ooh.
Great question.
Well, Jen, I would ask, one question I would ask is, what does have to mean? Have to. No criticism, just curiosity, like interesting, I have to grind. What is that story? I have to grind because X. Kids, tuition, family, debt, whatever. Okay, interesting. Then the next question is, are you certain? Are you 100% certain grinding delivers what you want? That's the equation, right? Because we have all these implicit equations in our brains. Nothing wrong. It's what our mind does. It's a beautiful, high-functioning thing, but it has assumptions, right? And then the question that assumption. What if the opposite were true? Is it even possible? Is there even a 1% possibility that grinding less would deliver more results? Just possible, right? And this is the other thing I find, like entrepreneurs will like, hey, there's a 10% probably here, there's a 5% there. We shouldn't ignore that. But when it comes to these things, we won't open ourselves up to these. Even that might just allow a little bit of space. And test and learn. What if you reduced your hours just a little bit? Just a little bit. What would happen? I'll bet, and I can say from experience, when I first started doing this, you know what came up for me? Fear, boredom, irrelevance. Like, what the hell do I do? Like, what do I do? I remember the first time I started actually journaling and writing versus just grinding. You know what I did? Because my body didn't know how to relax. It didn't know. So I just would ask yourself that question. Are you certain? Could you allow for the possibility that the opposite could be true? And then test and learn.
Fantastic answer. Thank you. Well, Mark, I want to thank you for writing this book, for creating this framework to be able to share with the world and with this next generation. This is so needed right now, and I'm just grateful to be a part of this and have this conversation. I know we could keep talking for a while. Maybe we'll do another event where we can go on long form, and we do deeper Q&A. But for now, do you want to end with a reading from the book? What do you think?
I'd be happy to. I mean, I don't know if people are getting sick of this already, just want to party, or I can I can read.
What do you guys think? You guys down to hear a short excerpt from the book? Yeah. There you go.
Great. I'm gonna read from the end. What better place to start than the end? Yeah, this is the epilogue. From ashes, even greater freedom. Little did I know how thoroughly my own freedom would be tested. On January 7th, 2025, my house, like more than 6,000 others that week, was destroyed by the Palisades, Pacific Palisades fire. I lost every material possession except for the clothes on my back. In many ways, that house represented the physical manifestation of my new dream of freedom. After Moore and I separated at the end of 2020, I moved several times, exploring different LA communities to find where I felt most at home. Eventually, I fell in love with the Pacific Palisades, specifically a 1949 mid-century modern sanctuary I discovered there. To me, the Palisades offered the perfect balance, tranquility with access to the beach, the untamed beauty of the Santa Monica Mountains, and all that LA has to offer. The day I moved into the house felt like a culmination of years of striving, a place where I could exhale, ground myself, recharge, and chart the next phase of my life. Each morning, I stepped outside and listened to the parakeets squawk their way into the tall eucalyptus trees behind the house. Their chaotic melody, oddly soothing, transported me back to my years in Central America. At night, the calls of the owls and coyotes echoed through the canyons, a symphony blending peace with wilderness. The house felt alive, perfectly attuned to the rhythm of the hills. Moving 20 times across 5 countries and 7 states had taught me how to settle in quickly. But this time, I took a different approach. I gave myself a full year to create something truly special. Even though I was renting, I invested what some might call a ridiculous amount of money. But for me, it was worth it. For the first time in over 25 years, I was creating a space that was entirely mine, designed exactly the way I wanted it. The result, a home that felt both zen and alive. Succulents and towering palms filled the rooms, blended with cherished artwork and curiosities from across the world. A custom-built 20-person dining table stood proudly on the deck. From there, the Pacific Ocean stretched endlessly, with Catalina Island faintly visible in the horizon, a view that never ceased to remind me how far I had come. I installed an 8-person barrel sauna and cold plunge, sculptures, blackout curtains, a high-end sound system, and more. The family room became my favorite space. Refurbished knoll couches from the Long Beach Antique Market paired perfectly with a gorgeous rug and wooden coffee table from El Salvador. Of course, many more plants filled the room. Every detail was intentional. Even my closet, a marvel of organization, was a small point of pride. I could almost hear my brother John teasing me about my childhood messiness. But this space reflected the freedom I'd found in order and self-awareness. Over the prior year, I had fallen in love with Caroline, a wonderful and beautiful Brit. She visited often and loved the house as much as I did. She affectionately nicknamed it Goucher after the street it was on, and brought her impeccable design aesthetic and savvy negotiating skills to enhance every detail. She commissioned custom outdoor furniture, stocked the kitchen with chef-grade essentials, adored each room with elegant linens, and created a painting I adored, which became the dining room centerpiece. Together, we reveled in the house's energy, breathtaking views, and the peace and joy we so beautifully co-created. As much as I love community, I know myself. I'm a lone wolf at heart. And living alone in Goucher suited me perfectly. But I loved it when the house came alive with visitors. My sister stayed in the pool house for months, transforming it into her wellness retreat while she focused on healing. My lifelong friend Stu worked poolside during football season while his son practiced at Pali High. Family and friends came and went. My sister Karen for a week, Sarah and her mother Sima from our extended Bosnian family, and finally my daughters and cousin Bridget over the holidays, filling the house with laughter, love, and life and love. Caroline and I hosted numerous dinners with friends and business associates, planning even more for 2025. The energy reached another level when Caroline's kids visited. Her daughter Siva's birthday party with 13 other 11-year-olds was a joyful riot, while her son Rumi and his friends staged slam dunk competitions in the pool basketball hoop. I loved their chaos. The house was minutes from the beach, so I could still stand up paddle surf and outrigger. But over the years, I had realized that as much as I loved our house in Redondo, I loved the hills even more than the beach. The Santa Monica Mountains became my playground. After years of back pain, I was finally strong enough to bike those hills again. Just 2 days before the fires, I cruised 20 miles along the fire roads on my new bike, feeling invincible, completely oblivious that soon the entire state park would look like the set of a post-apocalyptic movie. In that house, I tested and refined my personal routines, creating a rhythm that served me well, and allowed my time there to become the most professionally productive of my life. Mornings began with workouts, followed by meditation, sauna, and a cold plunge. Rituals that left me focused and energized. My home office, a beautiful and serene space, became the perfect environment for deep work on Monday and Fridays. Evenings were a mix of simplicity and ritual. Some nights I cooked. Other times I treated myself to Erewhon Food Bar down the hill, where the meals were 5-star quality and priced to match. I usually paired my meals with a partake non-alcoholic beer or a mocktail in one of my nice wine glasses. In this house, I had wrestled my overindulgent demons to the ground, or perhaps embraced them in a warm, loving hug. At night, I'd draw the blackout curtains, soak in a warm bath, and read as the call of my wildlife friends echoed through the hills. Those moments reminded me how this house had become a reflection of my freedom, a space deliberately built detail by detail to align with the life I wanted. And then it was gone. In the days and weeks after the fire, I found myself leaning heavily on the principles I've written about in this book. The irony was not lost on me. I was now being tested in the most personal and profound way. So I chose to follow my own advice. I know myself well now. I thrive in a crisis, easily powering through for a time with focus, determination, and compassion for others, but often neglecting that same care for myself. To resist that pattern, I remade a list I'd kept in my home office. What am I avoiding, suppressing, ignoring, denying, minimizing, or rationalizing? This time, I refused to rush into solving or diving into finding another house to escape discomfort. Instead, I asked, how can I stay fully present and learn everything there is to learn from this experience? I gave myself permission to feel everything. For the first few days, I was in and out of shock, especially when Caroline and I ventured through the devastation in tears to see what was left of our beloved Goucher. Then came grief, the deep sadness of losing a home that symbolized years of intentionality, all the beautiful memories, photos, books, and mementos. Anger followed at local leaders, nature, the world, and at myself for deciding to go self-insured the year before. Guilt crept in too. I had the resources to recover while so many others did not. I also felt sparks of excitement. What if this is a chance to dream again, to create something new and even more amazing? Some days I cycled through every emotion in a single hour, but I leaned into the practices I teach, running through the Freedom Key until I felt like I'd built an emotional processing supercomputer. I wasn't unaffected. I'd simply gotten so good at processing my emotions that it seemed I could face anything, sometimes in seconds, sometimes over days, but always fully. And I felt imperturbable because I was willing and able to experience it all. Life didn't stop. It never does for entrepreneurs. Even amid loss and upheaval, there were meetings, decisions, and deadlines. Companies needed guidance, investment opportunities popped up, and emails multiplied like rabbits. But this time I took a more measured approach. Rational hours, clear priorities, and delegation. No heroics. If a meeting was important or gave me an energy up, I showed up fully. If not, I sent it to the graveyard of postponed Zoom meetings. May they rest in peace. Of course, I also had to get shit done, so I dove into solve mode. At times, cancel bills, find a new place, buy underwear. Some days I felt unstoppable. Others, it was a struggle to write a few emails. At times I felt alone, as I had in ZICO's early days. But this time I did something different. I opened up. I talked openly with family, friends, my team at GroundForce about my feelings and struggles. I wrote about my experience, did interviews, helped others where I could, and allowed others to help me. Caroline and I cleared emotions together multiple times a day as we navigated the chaos, including her and her kids having to evacuate her house and the four of us staying in 3 different hotels and a house in Santa Barbara generously lent to us by a friend of a friend over the first 3 weeks post-fires. The stress tested us, but it also brought us closer. Living out of hotels and Airbnbs for weeks felt like an extended game of where's my charger? My routine's gone. Instead, I had to get creative, cramming workouts into closet-side spaces, meditating through the sound of sirens as fire crews still raced towards emergencies, writing on whatever flat surface I could find, and resisting the endless pull of a late-night news feeds. Bit by bit, I pieced together a version of stability, more DIY than designer, but it worked. Amid the challenges, the early sparks of excitement grew. Could this loss reveal ways I still wasn't as free as I thought? How could this be the best thing for me? What if the fire didn't happen to me, but for me? Could it be a chance to realign what truly matters, what I want, to shed what no longer serves me and step into a whole new chapter of freedom with even more success, wealth, meaning, and deeper relationships? In the face of such loss, I found myself not broken, but liberated. Stripped of the markers of success, a beautiful house and all it contained, I discovered that the essence of my life was intact, perhaps more potent than ever. The fire took everything tangible, but left me with an undeniable truth. Freedom isn't what you own, it's what you carry with you. That realization stirred immense gratitude. Gratitude for the memories and the opportunities to live in that amazing house. Gratitude for the incredible people I met over the years and relationships I had built. Gratitude for the clarity this loss brought. The freedom that freedom isn't tied to a place any more than to wealth or success. Gratitude for the amazing life I have lived thus far and for the incredible opportunities ahead of me. This book was meant to guide others, but in those raw, uncertain days, it guided me. It reminded me that freedom isn't a fixed destination, it's a practice. It deepened my understanding of what freedom requires, the courage to see reality as it is, to know and celebrate myself, the courage to break free of what's holding me back, the audacity to dream again, even from ashes, discipline, the willingness and ability to change, and the power to co-create with others. Even while the hills around LA still burned, clarity and a renewed sense of purpose emerged. I became clearer than ever about what I wanted: more success, more wealth in all its forms, more meaning, but also more connection, more life, more love. I still wanted it all, maybe even more than ever, but I now knew freedom must come first. Freedom isn't something I would chase or claim at the finish line. It would be my foundation, a choice I would do my best to make at every moment, no matter the circumstances. With freedom as my foundation, I am now dreaming bigger, taking bolder but calculated risks, and embracing life's possibilities. The fire stripped away the illusion of what I thought I needed, leaving only what truly mattered to me. So I surrender to the unknown, rebuild with intention, and trust in what will rise from the ashes. Whatever comes next, I am ready, I am free. Oh, wow. I did not expect it to go that way. Look, thank you all for coming. I really, really appreciate your support. And I just really feel honored and appreciative to have all of you in my life. I really do. I've learned from all of you. I learn from all of you all the time. And I appreciate your interest, and I hope we can enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you.
Thank you.